Just when you thought the Boruto anime series couldn't get any weirder, they just say, screw it, here's a Susanoo cat. Powerful Nerdcast assemble! Stay dandy, baby. Get ready for a hair-raising episode of Boruto, Naruto Next Generations, my friends, because the next battle in the Chunin re-examination arc is about to begin. It's a really awesome fight between Wasabi and Iwabe, two anime original characters, and considering this entire arc is wholly original to the anime, I loved it because I have no idea what's going to happen, and I don't think anybody could have predicted the ending of this episode. But before we actually get into that, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so. If you are subscribed, make sure you're hitting the bell button. It's gonna let you know when all of my videos are released. And if you're liking my content, sharpen your cat claws, slash the like button, helps out these videos tremendously. You could also consider checking out my Patreon page where you can make a small monthly donation, and I would love to add your name to this list of all of these people that you currently see right now. They're the ones who are going the extra mile, making these monthly donations, supporting this channel, watching my content. I would love if you guys could do that, but otherwise, please just continue to watch my stuff. Otherwise, let's jump into this episode right here. Wasabi versus Iwabe. This is an episode that they've kind of been building up to. There's been a lot of tension between these characters, and I was expecting like a knockdown, drag out, just bare knuckle brawl battle in this episode, and that's not necessarily what I got, but I still certainly got a lot of enjoyment out of it. I will say that I liked this episode just a little bit more than the last one, and that's surprising because I thought the battle between Inojin and Hoki was honestly pretty breakneck and awesome, but this one felt like it was a little more focused. They really didn't cut away to Boruto and Mitsuki until the very end of the episode, and again, it's mostly just a reminder of what they're doing. This entire episode mostly focused on Wasabi and Iwabe, two characters who have completely different hopes, dreams, and convictions, and that's what leads to a lot of the drama in this episode overall. You see, Wasabi and Iwabe are two characters who are destined for greatness. They want to be really powerful ninja. They want to be the best shinobi that the entire village has ever seen, but their aspirations are a little different, with Iwabe, of course, simply just wanting to be the Hokage because that's just what he'd do. And then, of course, there's Wasabi, who's easily the most interesting of the characters in this episode. Another one that they actually managed to dive into just a little bit more, as she herself has visions of grandeur, of in the future becoming a very powerful ninja, but not necessarily the Hokage. And she even recognizes that there's a lot of ninja and shinobi out there who are not Hokage that are still amazing. She simply just wants to excel and make her clan proud. Speaking of that clan, we actually get to see a few more members of that clan in this episode, some of which were actually teased a couple episodes ago. Wasabi's family, her mother, her father, and her super ridiculous grandma. So Wasabi's family have high hopes for her. They expect her to basically be the Hokage, and they also expect her to be one of the first members of their clan to become a Chunin at such a young age. We also get to learn, unfortunately, that her clan is not one of the most renowned in Konoha Village, as not a single one of them have ever been promoted to the rank of Jonin. Now, this, of course, ends up putting a lot of pressure on Wasabi, and it's made even worse when she has to battle against Iwabe, whose entire, dream is just to become Hokage himself, and nothing is going to stand in his way, even if it means something that's an absolute impossibility. And that's where a lot of the tension actually comes from in their battle, with Iwabe basically trying to bring his A game and saying that nothing is impossible, and Wasabi basically trying to say, hey, maybe deflate your balloon just a little bit and realize that not everyone is destined for greatness. They can be great themselves, but being the Hokage is not the end-all be-all of Konoha Village. And rather than give us a traditional shinobi battle that you would see from the series, I mean, you do get a few moments, like with Iwabe summoning these massive chunks of the earth which try and crush her, and her utilizing her cat cloak. We get to see that most of this battle is them basically just bitching at one another. And when I say bitching, I don't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. There's this whole other subplot throughout the course of the episode where we get to learn that throughout Wasabi's past, her grandmother has been trying to teach her this secret technique of the Izuno clan, which is supposedly being able to be possessed by a giant monster cat, which will possess you and give you lots of crazy power to destroy the mountains themselves. But as the episode goes on, it starts to seem like maybe her grandma's kind of, well, lost her marbles. Throughout the episode and all the flashback sequences, she claims that the monster cat is as big as a tree, as big as a house, and as big as a mountain. To the point where Wasabi doesn't even really believe it herself if it's something that can even be possible or even pulled off by a member of her clan. But luckily, Iwabe is actually there to demonstrate that no matter where you come from, who your parents are, what your background is, you have the potential for greatness. You just have to carve it out for yourself. And he demonstrates this by using his massive rock hammer to quite literally summon a massive cat statue out of the ground, saying that even he himself can summon a mountain-sized cat. I especially love the look of the cat itself. It's essentially what's known as a beckoning cat or a lucky cat. I see them all the time whenever I go to Japanese restaurants, and they're just such a prominent thing in the culture, and they're just so distinctive looking. They're basically Meowth from Pokemon. While it's really impressive that Iwabe could actually create this statue, it ends up biting him in the ass because he ends up passing out due to the loss of chakra, and then a large chunk of the statue is about to fall off and crush him. That's when Wasabi decides that she's going to jump in, inspired by him. She utilizes the scroll given to her by her grandmother to use this special technique. And boy, is this technique just an absolute mouthful. The Cat God Possession Monster Cat Beckoning Jutsu. This essentially allows her to summon a massive chakra cat, which again, looks very much like the beckoning cat, and very similar to the Susanoo technique. With her brand new perfect powers, she's able to destroy this statue, saving Iwabe and the day itself, as well as being inspired and presumably given the rank of Chunin. Would I have liked a more traditional fight between the characters? Yeah, but this honestly served as sort of like a great springboard for the character of Wasabi, who for the most part has sort of just been in the background for most of the series, and I mean, she has had her moments, but this is big development for her character, and getting to learn a little bit more about her clan is actually kind of interesting, especially when it's one of those forgotten clans of Konoha Village, which is to say, a clan that was created for the Boruto series that has never been mentioned until now. But the point is, it's pretty interesting stuff, and I do like it. There's also a few other little developments in this episode that I thought were kind of cool, especially because they're like, no spectators allowed, unless they're like special guests. Because Shinky and his family arrives, Gaara's son, and they just arrive because they just want to, see what the next generation is going to be up to do a little bit of reconnaissance. But there's also a weird little moment between Shinky and Kawaki, which I think is kind of interesting. I would like to see some sort of interaction between these characters, and hell, I'd like to see a battle between these two, because frankly, I just think it would be kick-ass. So what's the rundown on this episode of Boruto Naruto Next Generations? This was a really surprising episode of the series, as like I said, they sort of broke convention in giving us that sort of traditional battle that you usually see in the Chunin exam, and they gave us something honestly a little meatier to chew on, which was development for both of the characters. While Wasabi definitely received a lot of that by fleshing her out, by showing her family, and of course the pressure that she's under, Iwabe again just demonstrates that while he might not be the most competent character in the series, he certainly has the ability to influence people in a number of really interesting ways. And for him to do that in the middle of a really big fight, which would determine the future of their rank in Konoha Village, really speaks volumes for how mature the character actually is. Or maybe it's just dumb luck, I don't really know. What I really loved about this episode, though, was seeing more of Wasabi in action, because I've just always liked the general design and the use of her powers. To me, she's always been sort of like the female version of Kiba in the series, and the exact opposite because, cat and dog and everything. They even mention that in this episode. The whole battle between Wasabi and Iwabe is not too different from Naruto and Kiba back in the original Chunin exam arc. I'm really glad that they at least acknowledge that, because that's kind of the feeling that I got from this one, except this one was a little simpler in terms of its execution, but it featured a massive surprise with the use of her summoning a giant monstrous chakra cat, which ultimately looked kind of goofy, but still, it was pretty awesome. And it's not even the first chakra cat that we've seen from the series, lest we forget the Two Tails, Maratabi. But ultimately, like I said, this episode just really surprised me. It was funny, it was enduring, it had some surprisingly cool action scenes. As ridiculously, insanely weird as they could actually get as summoning a giant beckoning cat. And there's also teasing for the future of this Chunin exam, as one of the biggest shocks is we get to see what the next battle is going to be, and it's going to be between none other than Sarada and Chocho. That's right, best friends battling it out. And honestly, I can't predict it. In the back of my mind, I feel like Sarada has the extreme advantage in this battle, but this is one of those fights where almost I think anything could happen. I have a feeling it's going to get very dramatic, considering that Sarada and Chocho are best friends with one another, and I think that's going to add a lot to the next episode of the series. Whether this whole plot with Boruto and Mitsuki and these mysterious guys kidnapping Amato goes anywhere remains to be seen. A lot of my commenters had some umbrage with the way that I was kind of complaining about them in the last episode, where I thought they were kind of just plain Jane villains. A lot of people saying that maybe they were the outers of Kara. I'm still bored by them. I don't care if they're with Kara or not. They could be ex-members of Akatsuki for all I care. They could be freaking Ginyu Force fan club members. I don't give a shit. They still kind of bore me a little bit, and I just don't care about their storyline. That's simply just my opinion, and yours may differ, and it might even differ with this episode too. I liked this one, surprisingly. I thought I was going to go into this one by the end and not like it, considering the battle didn't necessarily go the way that I was hoping, but I liked that whole twist with the giant ridiculous chakra cat Susanoo. I thought it was pretty freaking awesome. I liked this episode for the development that it gave for two side characters who are seldom used. I liked it, so I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Of course, your thoughts may differ yet again. You may have hated this episode. You might have liked it even more than me, so let's discuss why in the comments section below. What you thought about this battle with Iwabe and Wasabi's brand new technique of summoning a giant monster cat, and what are your predictions for Sarada versus Chocho? This is a pretty big freaking deal. Which one of them is going to become a Chunin? So let's talk about it. Thank you guys so much, though, for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.